Hello and welcome. It is championship time. I'm Randy Bueller. I am joined by David Williams, and we have one match left. The night is flying by.
Yeah, I'm actually, even though the matches have been kind of awesome, I'm just a little disappointed because I'm kind of used to my Tuesday nights going well into the evening. I kind of unwind, finish the Super League at about 10, maybe sometimes even 11:30 Pacific, get ready for bed and go to bed. Now it's like, wow, what am I going to do on a Tuesday at 8:30 or 9? I've got these hours left. Maybe I'll draft on Magic Online. So,
There you go.
there are some positives to it going so fast, but I think it's refreshing because right now Standard is in a place where the games are kind of taking a while. You're seeing an unprecedented number of draws in Grand Prix and Pro Tours. Even Super League has been going crazy late last. I mean, I feel like either last week or the week before, the games are just going forever. I felt like one night it went, which I liked, but it went forever. So this is kind of interesting to see it going so quickly. And like I said, I think it's because the players showed up with these red decks, which you don't normally see, and they
Yeah.
have some lopsided matchups in addition to some really good draws and horrible draws by their opponents.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the red decks. We look at this field, though. It was two beatdown decks. It was a mid-range deck. It was a control deck. It was a combo deck. It's actually and then a ramp deck is the sixth deck. It's actually a reasonable diversity of decks. It's just the red decks were the right call. Like, nobody was prepared for them, and they've just been crushing. Oh, nobody was prepared for them except Lee Shi Tian, who, it was interesting. We only had him in the booth for a couple of minutes, but he was defending Colostria Healer as actually the key to beating the red decks. I know
Right.
Eric was.
I think that's more of like collateral damage because he played the healers anyways. I think there was no doubt he was going to play this list. I don't think he played this list to beat red. I think he just
But I don't think
this
he
deck
had
is
Colostria
great.
Healers in the group stage.
He had it in the play-in against me.
Okay, maybe he had them the whole. Yeah, maybe
So
he had them the whole time. Like the rally tech is kind of interesting because he loves the Colostria Healer. He also loves Liliana. If you look at the list that put three people into the top 8 of the Grand Prix last weekend, it's got Elvish Visionary in the 2 spot basically where those Colostria Healers are, and it does not run Liliana, and instead it's able to get the fourth Husk, the fourth Grim Harrispec. So like the curve is the same number at each drop. It's just Lee likes Colostria Healer over Visionary, and he likes Liliana over the fourth Husk and the fourth Harrispec.
yeah, it's really strange to me because I feel like I keep looking at these lists I see at the GPs having success, doing well, and they're so different from Lee's list. But Lee has been smashing for 6 straight matches now. I'm really impressed with his list, and I'm actually shocked more people aren't playing it. I'm wondering, is his list the better version, or what's going on? Why are people not playing this list? Because he just seems to never lose with it against no matter what he's playing.
Yeah, I was talking about the fact that he was 4-0-8-0 coming in Super League. He's now what? He's 5-0, 10-0? No, he's 4-0-8-0 in this, but then he's actually 6-0 if you go back to the play-in tournament.
But I did get a game off of him
You got a game
somehow.
off of him, right? So he's
It
not
was
perfect.
the most unwinnable matchup. I mean, when the list came out, actually, Sam Black saw them before I did, and I got like a text message from them that said, "You're a huge dog" or something, but it's not impossible, but it looks pretty bad or something to the effect. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Lists are out," and I'm like, "Shoot, what is my worst matchup? What could it be?" I go, "What's he on?" He's like, "Rally." I'm like, "Oh God." Is that as bad as it sounds? And every person I asked, you could tell they didn't want to make me feel bad. They're like, "Oh yeah, you got a shot. You can do some things." After playing it, I'm like, wow, that matchup is as bad as they get in standard. I mean, there's just really nothing I felt I could do.
Yeah, you were
I
on the
look,
Bant Tokens deck that Sam played at the Pro Tour, right?
yeah, I mean, it just seemed pretty much impossible. So here he is, smashing everyone. And like I said, I don't know why we don't see this list in GPs because I was talking to Huxeed about he loves Rally and he keeps looking at the GP list. I'm like, look at Lee Shi Tian's list, and he's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, this deck made it in the GP. I'm like, play Lee's list. I don't know what's wrong with people, but Lee's list looks fantastic. But the other lists are having success too, so who knows? Maybe just Rally
Yeah,
is a great deck.
Brussels was a huge breakout weekend. All of Team Eureka played it last weekend in Brussels. They put, I think, 3 into the top 8. They're definitely a bunch of them deep in the Swiss. So it felt like almost a breakout weekend for Rally. I mean, I'm with you. Lee's been crushing with it so long that I was kind of waiting. And I mean, it's had little results here and there. It didn't win Brussels, but it did put 3 in the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think if I play some standard here, which I usually play something during the week or on a Saturday, some kind of local tournament, I'm probably going to look to play Lee's list in the upcoming event. Although people love Abzan in my area, and there's just so much Anafinza, which I've heard is what is really bad against the deck. And I actually feel had I made the playoffs, if I was even in this standard Super League, I'm shocked nobody played an Anafinza deck because I would have felt to win this thing, you're going to have to probably get through Lee What's really good against Lee? Anafenza. So I was really shocked when I saw the list that there was not one person playing Obzon.
I think the problem is the card Anafenza the Foremost is amazing against Rally, but the rest of the deck is just a bad matchup. Like the Rally the Ancestors deck is designed to just go over the top of the kind of dirtily grindy mid-range green decks. So it's a super favorable matchup for Rally, except for that one card. And, they've got a murderous cut. They've got a murderous cut or two. They can bounce it with Sidisi. I think that while the card is amazing in the matchup, the deck matchup is actually kind of undoes some of that advantage. Certainly, the presence of all the Obzon at the Grand Prix circuit is part of the reason that Rally deck did so well in Brussels, I think. I mean, that was certainly Team Eureka's theory going in as to how that metagame worked.
Interesting. Yeah, like I said, I don't know too much about the matchup. I just know the card Anafenza is a nightmare for it. I don't know what the best shell.
Lee was terrified about running into Anafenza in the play-in tournament. I know that he actually had them in his own sideboard for enemy Rally decks in the play-in tournament. Luis also ran Rally in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, I remember Luis was terrified of Lee's Anafenzas. He's like, oh my god, he has Anafenza. How am I going to win this match? So
exactly.
But it sounds like the players are ready. I don't know if you are. Kind of ending the night quickly. The sooner we get to it, but
let's do it. Championship time. Here we come, guys. Hello and welcome to the championship match. The first annual Super League champion will be either Lee Shi Tian, who came through Modern Super League, earned a spot in the play-in tournament, and hasn't lost since. Or will it be Paul Rietzl, who finished second in the Standard Super League and now has a red-green landfall deck in his hands? Noted aggro player against noted combo player. Going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, Paul still has not won a die roll here or against Gabby. He didn't either. And his hand looked like it would have been really amazing on the play. Lee's hand is great. He's got everything he wants. He does need a third land and a blue mana, but he's got lots of early drops and lots of creatures. And a lot of the times I think I find this deck has some clunky hands with like Rally and company, and it doesn't do much early. If he's able to find a third mana or a blue source, his hand is amazing. Although Paul's got a very potent, powerful hand, and he does have lots of pump and to become immense in his hand. So it could be over quickly if Lee doesn't find the appropriate colors of mana.
Lee does have his Colostri healer. He was able to gain a life. He's got a 1/2 that he can potentially block with. Zulaport Cutthroat is a second 2-drop. I feel like maybe he can whiff once on that third land, but I'm with you. He's got to find it in a hurry. Yeah, Paul just attacks in. It's got to be tempting for Lee to block here, and he does, in fact, block. Paul has to play an instant if he wants to kill the Colostri healer. Otherwise, these creatures just bounce off of each other. And if Paul's playing an instant, like in a Tarkus command, then it means he's not developing his board with more creatures.
Although he doesn't really have anything he would want to really, truly play as a better alternative. I think if he didn't block, he probably might have just played an Abbot, although you never know. He probably
I think face-up Den Protector is the play there.
Yeah, face-up Den Protector is nice because then you're able to pump it before attacks and get through. Right. But I don't think he has a problem with killing the healer and doing damage right there.
I think both players played that very reasonably. Lee does whiff on the land, but drops the Cutthroat, like we said. And now, once again, Paul's going to have to spend a card if he wants to get through with his Swift Spear. I think you lead Abbott pre-combat, see what's up.
Yeah, and interesting, he didn't have to pump his creatures because his creature was already killing it. So he was able to put a land into play from his hand. So if he hits a land off his Abbott, which he didn't, he could actually get to 4 mana right turn. So he got to use the ramp ability, which isn't used very often in other versions, but in the landfall decks, actually, it is used. But it didn't come up. He didn't hit a land. He did hit a Swift Spear, which is the next best thing to a land, I think, to hit right there.
Yeah, but the first Swift Spear bounces off the Colostri healer, of course.
And Lee is stumbling.
Lee Shi Tian really needs that third land if he's going to do anything. Can't find it. Now, wow, that is a lot of pump spells in Paul Rietzl's hand.
Yeah, this is going to be a quick game. It's unfortunate Lee wasn't able to find a mana. I think he might have one more turn in him, so how much damage is he taking here? If he doesn't chump, it's 2, 3, 4. Every pump spell adds 3 more, so 710 plus another. Yeah, if he doesn't block here, I think he's just dead no matter how you slice it, actually, because he can cast double Titan Strength and become immense.
Oh, wow. Yeah. He's got 12 points of pump. And then that's 3 prowess triggers. So it's over, right?
Yeah, it's over. No matter how he blocks here, he's dead.
Wait, no, if he blocks the abbot, I think he only falls to 1.
So let's see. It's 3, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. No, it's not. It's more than 20, right? Because it's 12 points from the spells plus 6,
12, 13,
18,
14, 15,
20.
16. You're right. Yeah, he's dead. Nothing matters.
There's no way he can actually slice this
And he
out.
knows that. Lee Shi Tian's tapped out, so. And then Lee's like, look, if you've got it, you've got it. I don't even need to bother. The block doesn't accomplish anything against the god hand that Paul Rietzl, in fact, has. So Paul Rietzl, who snuck into this playoff with a 1-2 record. He came out on the good side of a 3-way tie for second in his group at 1-2. Lee Shi Tian ran away with the group. This is actually Paul trying to avenge a group stage loss, and he's halfway there.
In like a normal bracket style Super League, Paul would have to win twice. But here he somehow won 5 games and played about 4 minutes total of Magic, maybe 5. If you think about how his matches have gone, I mean,
it's Paul Rietzl playing Magic Online. Does he ever take more than 5 minutes for his side of a match? I guess his opponents sometimes do a little bit of thinking.
his opponents sometimes actually are able to put up a better fight. They have hands and mana. He's ran pretty well in addition to playing well and having good draws. His opponent's draws have been pretty bad against him.
Yeah, Paul snuck in at 1-2, but he has been crushing here in the playoffs.
So I'm trying to see. It's a little small for me. It looks like Lee is bringing in some merciless executioners. It looks like the duress is still on his sideboard. I think you might want to duress here, but he doesn't have as much burn. But you still
he's got some duresses in the deck. He's also got some anaphenzas coming in.
Well, I think he just wants. I think he just wants a consistent. I think he's turning his deck almost in less combo-y and more into just put up some creatures and put up some threats. Kind of have some blockers. Like Haruspex in itself is a little slow. So he's taking out the Haruspex, he's taking out the rallies.
All 4 rallies in the sideboard definitely tells you that he's not interested in playing his combo game.
Although, unfortunately, though, I just don't know if without having the power of being able to rally back a huge board and do things.
Your creatures are just bigger. Like, this is how have you beat red decks historically, right? If your creatures are just a little bit bigger, it's like, the green deck against the red deck from way back in the day. Your creatures are a little bit bigger than theirs. If they don't kill you with the initial rush, Lee's just got 4/4s and 1/2s that gain life and collected company to get multiples of them.
The thing is, I think in theory that works, but I think especially with the type of red deck Paul has, where it has the green creatures, the creatures with the pump just outclass the bigger creatures. I mean,
the combo is the issue. Like that historical truth might not apply in Become Immense Team or Battle Rage land.
Or even you don't even need Become Immense with the size of the creatures Paul has now, like a Snapping Gnarlid with a fetch land as a 4/4 itself. One Titan Strength along with or a Tarka's Command along with a Team or Battle Rage is enough.
Fair enough.
Lee might have been correct in his assessment on how bad this matchup was. Now this hand Paul has doesn't have any creatures. The rest of it's great.
Done. I mean, it's hard to keep a hand without a 1-drop. So keeping a hand without a creature is just not even an option.
So it looks like either Lee has mulliganed or one card is scooted.
No, there's one card off to the left. He hasn't opened his graveyard.
Okay.
There it is.
So Lee's hand is pretty perfect. I mean, he's got all his mana. He can get a white-green land with the Canopy Vista, so he can play his turn 3 Catacombs Sifter. He's got a turn 2 play. Dispel was one of the best cards you can have in this matchup. It prevents you from just dying to the combo. So his hand is amazing, and Paul had to mulligan.
Twice. It is a playable hand he mulliganed too, but I was going to say he does need a forest. So now he's got a forest. He's actually able to do some things. Unfortunately, though, it's going to need a lot of help, I think, to get past this monster draw of Lee. So Lee actually is in position, I think, to stay alive a lot longer than most opponents so far against Paul. Second Swift Spear.
Zulaport Cutthroat does not do a good job of defending against the creatures in this deck. I mean, it's kind of like an enchantment almost that can chump if it needs to be, but before you're comboing off or gaining some sort of massive advantage from it, it really doesn't do much of anything for you.
You know what does block well, though?
Scion tokens.
Yeah, Scion tokens and 2/3s.
Yeah. So it's interesting, though. You may not want to block with your Scion token because if you don't draw land, you're able to block and then sack it or just do it pre-combat and cast the Collected Company. So I don't think he'll chump. He's at a high enough life where I think he might just block with just the Catacomb Sifter because we know Paul's attacking with that hand.
Mm-hmm.
But you could block knowing that if you don't draw land, you can just play Husk. Although another reason to not block is you can play Husk and leave up Dispel. So I think all these signs are leading to not blocking with the Scion.
I mean, blocking with Catacomb Sifter, though, right?
Oh, for sure, I think.
Okay. I mean, I think you want to block. Your opponent mulliganed to 5. So if you just get to trade cards, even if you're trading for pump spells out of Paul's hand, that's good enough. Trading cards is just a good plan when you're up that double mulligan.
Yeah, I think Sifter is guaranteed blocking. I think the question is, do you block with the Scion or not? I think the mana that the Scion provides allows his hand to develop a little better, and it might be more important to just take the 2 to 5 damage that creature probably does to you. Especially with 2 mana, you can't be comboed out and no cards in the graveyard. So allowing you to kind of have options next turn, whereas if you do block and don't draw land, then you're not able to really play anything other than just Husk go, and Husk is not really important when theoretically your Catacomb Sifter is probably going to die in combat too, so you'll have a Husk and a Zulaport, which is not very good against this board. So I think because of all those things, he's going to have to keep his Scion back so that he can collect a company.
Buy that.
So he didn't even block with a Sifter, which I understand. I think right now, since you're not likely to die, you'd rather block with it later, and this allows him to get some sort of scry triggers off the creatures that come in after.
Yeah, but it gives Paul a window to play a creature instead of forcing Paul to spend his turn on an Atarka's Command.
That is the downside to that. It doesn't force Paul's hand, whereas if you block, you require Paul to cast a pump spell instead of a creature.
I don't think Catacomb Sifter is that important to this board.
No, I don't think...
did draw land, so he's got 4 mana plus the Scion mana now.
I don't think it is, but I think the fact that he can later block with it with the spell up, so then he actually gets to trade the Dispel, and then the Catacomb Sifter lives through combat might have factored into it, and the fact that it can block later when the creatures can get bigger, whereas now it was pretty much guaranteed he was only taking 2 damage, or maybe 4, depending on what he cast.
Yeah, if he drew that land, this works out. He gets to Coco plus Dispel, or Nantuko Husk plus Dispel. Kind of only worked out because he top decked the land, though.
Yeah, and it looks like he's playing the Husk.
That's what it looks like.
Which will allow him to leave his sack land up. If he needs to get Dispel, he can. He can choose to sack the token after blocking with it to make his Husk 4/4, which can eat creatures and get him a scry trigger. Although if he is going to do that, he's going to want to sack his sack land first.
There you go. Nantuko Husk with Dispel mana up. Now, how does Paul play this? Got a lot of options. I mean, Abbott gives him multiple options. Flipping Den Protector can get a land.
Yeah, it's if you flip Den Protector to get a land, though, then you're pretty much not playing the Abbott. You're locked into attacking, seeing what happens if you want to Atarka's Command. Yeah. And if you don't need to use it, then you play Snapping Gnarlid.
It's kind of cool, though, how the 3-power Den Protector can't be blocked. And if Nantuko Husk eats a creature, then it's super scary for Lee that Paul could respond. Paul can pump. It's interesting how he sort of forces Lee to eat a creature pre-combat if he wants to block Den Protector.
Right, and then if he Atarka's Command, it's going to get even bigger, where he'll have to sack a second creature if he wants to keep his Husk alive. Although having another Husk and a Collected Company in your hand, he probably won't go down that route unless 2 creatures are dying.
Well, the Atarka's Command would only get the Den Protector to 4 power, so a Husk having eaten 1 creature would be able to block.
No, I meant to keep it alive. If he wants to do more than trade. I think with having another one in your hand, you just let it die. No reason to sack another guy unless one of those guys is already dying in creature in combat.
This is a tough spot for Lee Shi Tian. I mean, he's got the Dispel. That helps.
Yeah, the Dispel kind of makes it where you want to just put a Sifter maybe. Okay, he's going to make his guy big and block. Yeah, put that on a guy and put a Sifter on a Swift Spear. Force Paul to do something, Dispel it. Now you eat the Den Protector because it doesn't resolve, and your Den Protector is 4/4 against the 3/2. your Sifter trades off of a Swift Spear and you take 2 damage.
Paul mulliganed to 5 this game, right? He's really made a game of it for having mulled that low.
He did, but I think this Dispel is just going to be too backbreaking. I mean, if Paul has some good draw phases after this, he has a chance. But if he draws like a land or a brick in the next 2 draw phases, because Lee has a pretty robust hand. I mean, he's going to dispel a card here.
Yeah, this Dispel is great. He's read Paul for exactly Atarka's command, and Dispel's going to be insane. Those blocks are just, you're going to play Atarka's command, and it's not going to do anything that you want it to do.
Right,
Swift
and now
Spear is going to die. Your Den Protector is going to die. You're not even going to take Nantuko Husk down.
Right, with the double block here, he's going to leave Paul devastated. And like I said, now he's got Collected Company and a full board. If Paul doesn't draw like literally the combo in the next 2 turns, I think it's pretty much a wrap.
Does he even have 2 turns? Depends how good the Collected Company is.
Yeah, so he's at 16 right now. He can attack for 5. If he were to hit 2 creatures, he could get not enough because then he could sack. So it's not enough to kill him this turn, but it looks like next turn he's probably got lethal. So the Dispel was incredible. Right. I did say in his opening hand, it's one of the best cards I've had in this match.
Dave, I think your mic just came out. And now it's fixed, maybe? All right. Yeah, Paul goes fishing with the Abbot. Finds a Temur Battle Rage, which he can point at this Swift Spear. Are you back with us, David?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great.
I'm processing what's going to happen now. So this is going to trade off with the Catacomb Sifter. But unfortunately for him, he's just going to collect a company. So Paul needs to run really hot and just something I haven't seen in a while, to see a whiff. Just collect a company, nothing. That's Paul's best shot right now.
All right, so the Swift Spear is threatening to be 2 power double strike. Here's the Cutthroat Healer, it sounds like. And maybe a Sidisi's Faithful. Oh, 2 Sidisi's Faithful. How about 5 creatures to choose from?
Yeah, that's kind of different than a whiff, but, you know,
a little bit.
It could happen.
Now, how does Lee Shi Tian want to play this from here? Sidisi's Faithful to bounce the Swift Spear and keep your Sifter alive has to be at least tempting.
Yeah, and then you get a trigger off your Zulaport, too.
Right.
But if you get the Sidisi's Faithful, I think you probably want to keep the Faithful. With another Husk in your hand to reload, I would actually consider putting in, depending on what the second creature you get off is, just sacking the Husk, because you have another one you can play.
Yeah, well, he can also bounce the blocker. Like, I think he's trying to figure out if he can deal 13. If he bounces the untapped Abbot, then does he have a crackback for lethal?
Let's see, that's 5. That guy would die, so he wouldn't have that attacker. He would do 1, though, and put him to 12. He would need to do 12. Oh, a third Zulaport? Well, here you go.
Yes.
So
he did not bounce the Abbot, though.
Well, yeah, he doesn't get to bounce anything, so that puts him at 10.
But he does have Trip Cutthroats. Draws a 4/4 off the top. He's on 15 life. Paul's at 10.
So let's see if he's able to play a creature pre-combat attack with everybody. If he blocks the Husk, he takes 3 and goes to 7.
To block the Husk. He's got to be dead if he doesn't block Husk.
Yeah, he takes 3 and goes to 7, and then you just start sacking. The first one deals 3, the next one deals 2, the next one deals 1. That's only... Oh, now he's got to play a creature pre-combat, so yeah, that's game. He can sack the Husk to do 3, sack the second Zulaport to do 3, then 2, then 1.
I only got to 9. What'd I miss?
Right, but he's taking 3 from combat damage also.
Yeah.
3 from combat damage.
Oh, yeah.
Sack the Husk for 3. Yeah, 3, 3, 3, 2, 1.
Yep.
Wow. Double Zulaport Cutthroat off the Collected Company. And here we are discussing about bouncing a blocker and if he has lethal. That's pretty impressive.
Lee Shi Tian, ladies and gentlemen.
So I don't know if maybe the construction is slowing down Lee. But he's got lethal. I mean, I'm sure he's an expert with this deck. He has to see it. He did play a creature pre-combat, and there's nothing Paul can do being tapped out, so I don't know what's happening here. unless he's just giving Paul a good slow roll. But I mean, even Paul can look at the board and see he's dead. So, who's the action on?
It's on Lee.
It's on Lee. Interesting.
Yeah, we invited Lee Shi Tian into the Modern Super League. I mean, dude has made top 8 at 3 of the 4 Modern Pro Tours. We thought that was where he was going to shine. And he did manage to get 4th in the Modern Super League. Good enough to earn a spot in the play-in tournament.
What just happened?
But he passed the turn. He let Paul untap.
I mean, it doesn't matter. He's at 18.
Right.
But I don't understand.
Yeah, it seems like the game's just over.
What I don't understand, Paul is a man to just right-click and hit concede. Okay, there it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Why has Paul not just done that and said, let's get to the third game? I'm ready.
On to game number 3. Yeah, Lee Shi Tian's decision to just bring in a bunch of creatures that can block effectively kind of worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was also combined with Paul's mulligan, and he ended up getting blown out by Dispel, right? Dispel was the story of that game.
Yeah, that's right. And Paul's double mulligan meant the Dispel was completely backbreaking.
Yeah, if he doesn't have Dispel, then that board just gets decimated and he's on the back foot. Or if maybe Paul had a few more burn spells. So things went the way that he wanted to go, but unfortunately for game 3, he's going to be on the draw, and I think being on the draw is a huge edge for Paul. The fact that Paul's on the play, I'm saying, is a huge edge. So assuming there's no Dispels, it looks good for Paul, but Paul's going to have a good opening hand, because if he lets Lee develop, it's bad news.
So Lee Shi Tian is 6-0 in Standard now. 2 wins in the play-in tournament, 3 wins at the group stage, and a win in the playoffs already. That's like a Spartian run. Yeah,
I was very shocked to, that she went down so quickly after being the Super League Titan that she was.
The matchup was kind of a problem. She's made some good metagame calls, but...
No, I'm very impressed with her deck selection. Every time I felt like she's been on the right deck.
Maybe every time till now. I mean, running it back has not worked out historically in Super League. I remember, one of the first vintage Super Leagues, Pakula opened up 3-0 on a workshop deck and then just ran it back and 0-3'd because everybody figured, Pakula did so well with that workshop deck. He's probably just going to run it back, isn't he?
But look at Lee. Play in, same deck. Group stage, same deck. Finals, same deck. I don't even think he's changed many cards, maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think he's just little tiny tweaks here and there. You make a good point, though. He has run it back twice, and it's totally working.
Paul doesn't have a 1-drop. This is one of those hands I was talking to Luis about, though. It's not perfect, but you still got to keep it. But it has some problems. I mean, if that snapping gnarlid doesn't really get through or get going, if it gets outclassed, you don't really have too much going for you, though. Fortunately, with Atarka's commands and lands in your hands, it's hard to outclass a snapping gnarlid. Now, Lee has a duress, which is great because he doesn't have many turn 1 plays. He is going to have to take a point of damage if he wants to do it. But he can follow up with, he doesn't have a 2-drop. He does have a turn 3 and a Finza.
Yeah. His hand is pretty slow. No 2-drop. Only duress before turn 3.
Although the only way to do a turn 3 and a Finza with these current mana would be to get come into play tapped land either now or next turn. I think there's no reason to duress right now, since you can duress next turn and you have one more shot at getting a relevant card. It's only bad if he draws a 2-drop that he wants to play. Then he loses his window to smoothly play duress on curve. And he doesn't.
Fetch land. Yeah, the landfall version of the deck is a little less likely to have a 1-drop because it doesn't really play Zergo. Just the Swift Spear and the Leopard. Anyway, yeah, here's the turn 2 duress from Lee Shi Tian.
So now he can actually get a forest and use a plains and have to take 0 pain land damage to cast any of his spells.
Indeed. Obviously, this duress is just going to take Atarka's command. He's, I think, taking a moment to write down what's in Paul's hand, make sure he knows what he needs to play around.
Yeah, I usually just screen capture just a little part of their hand and leave it open on my screen. The only drawback to that is it's hard to get rid of cards as they play them.
I find it easier to scribble stuff down on a pad of paper. But...
So Lee is going to play a land here. No, nice. Paul really wants to draw a non-land card, and that's a good one to draw. Particularly good because Lee has duressed him and hasn't seen it. So he's going to be playing the odds and say, okay, the coast is clear, and a lot of his decisions coming up, thinking, well, he could have drawn Battle Rage, but he's not going to really be prepared for it. So there's a chance to kind of sneak that in and get some damage in that could be really huge later in the game.
Den Protector for Paul and an attack for 3.
So he saved the sack land so that he can get a +2/+2 out of it on a turn that might be relevant to get by, say, a Husk or something of the sort.
On an offensive, for example.
Exactly. So end of turn, it looks, or I guess Lee's just getting it now since he knows nothing else is happening.
Yeah.
Excuse me, guys. So I wonder, I mean, if you get a forest here, it allows all the rest of your lands, to come into play on tap. I wonder if he was thinking if he wanted to get some sort of, he doesn't have rallies in his deck, so there's no reason to actually get white mana. And there's no other dual land in his deck that has the forest type or the plains type that he wants.
Yeah, Lee taps out for turn 3, 4/4. Hopes that that's good enough. This is where it starts to get scary. The landfall deck has got some mana. It's got a couple of guys in play. You're tapped out.
So let's see, how much is this? He can, if he's going to block with NFNs almost certainly. That's why it's in his deck. Right. He can give his guys +1/+1. The Snapping Gnarlet's already 3/3. It's going to become 4/4.
Yeah, Lee. I like Lee's block on the Den Protector, which he knows it's a Den Protector. It's the only morph.
He can put Lee to 2 right here.
Can he really?
Yeah, if he +1/+1 and 3 damage and Battle Rage, his creature becomes 5/5. It does 10, and then he does 3 with the 3 damage from the Atarka's command.
But then he just loses the Den Protector and doesn't kill Anafenza?
Or if he flips it.
Right. He can flip and then Atarka's command to at least trade for Anafenza and get a regrow.
It's interesting, though, because then...
Yeah, I think you rebuy Atarka's command and flip Den Protector.
So he put a land into play.
Wow. Atarka's command putting a land into play, and it's relevant.
Right, and then he's going to give his creature double strike. Yeah, and it wins. And it wins.
Land. Oh my god, what just happened?
I forgot about
the land into play with Atarka's command, because triggered landfall 2 extra times and killed him.
Right, because his creature was a 2/2 with 4 triggers, so it became a 6/6. Double strike is 12, plus the 3 damage is exactly 15. Putting a land into play, drawing a fetch land there was actually the perfect draw, which gave him exactly lethal.
Paul Rietzl, ladies and gentlemen.
I like how we're still adding up and figuring out, well, you could flip the dim, and Paul just kills him. We're trying to figure out.
You had him as 1 or 2 short, right? I don't even know which other mode did he choose on Atarka's command. I guess 3 damage is
3 damage is exactly 15. No, 3 damage is exactly 15.
Yeah. 3 damage plus put a land into play.
A fetch land, not just any land. A fetch land. Because then it allows your creature to be a 6/6 double strike, which is 12, plus the 3 damage is 15.
Wow. I said Lee was scared, right? You tap out for your turn. It was turn 3. Lee tapped out on turn 3 and never got a turn 4. That's what we just saw. Through Anafenza, Paul...
And a duress. I said when he drew that card, this is going to be very important right here. He duressed him and played an Anafenza, and he died. And that's what I was talking about, actually. But we were talking about it beforehand. I said you don't even need to become immense because your creatures are so large. Sometimes just Battle Rage on a Snapping Gnarlet is big enough. I didn't know
thought you would need at least a Titan Strength.
Yeah, I didn't know he was going to put in 4 land triggers that turn. But well done, Paul Rietzl. Congratulations to our the Super League Championship champion. Absolutely. Not just the standard Super League, the championship of all the Super Leagues.
Wow. The Hall of Famer, there you see the path. He had the crazy tough draw, first-round matchup against another Hall of Famer, number 3 ranked player in the world, Eric Froelich. Smashed Eric. He got a pretty good matchup against Gabby, who almost took game 2, but Paul top-decked to win game 2. Was certainly going to be on heavily advantaged if they did come to a game 3. And then here against Lee Shi Tian, it did come down to a game 3. He got to be on the play. Lee Shi Tian seemed like he had a decent draw, and Paul, wow.
So before I get out of here and let you interview Paul, a little insight, because now he 3-0'd with this deck, and he went 1-2 with this, what he called himself a bad deck. I mean, when he showed, we're on Team Ultra Pro, and we share things in the forum. We have a team, like a team thread. He showed his black-white deck he submitted for the group stage. It's like, you could tell, no one in the group truly commented. No one wanted to be mean and be like, what the hell did you show up with? We're all kind of like, good luck, rooting for you. And then finally by week 3, I'm like, hey, how's your matchup? Like, he's like, man, I wish I just played a real deck. But he squeaked his way in. He brought a real deck to the playoffs, and he was rewarded for making a good player with a good deck is a dangerous thing.
Absolutely. And Paul Rietzl, certainly a very good player, and the deck's certainly a very good deck. We are, as you said, going to bring in Paul Rietzl in now, do a little bit of a winner interview. So don't go anywhere, guys. We're just going to go to commercial break for just long enough to kick David out and bring Paul in. Thanks for hanging out with us, David. And hey, good luck next week. You, sir, have a Vintage Super League play-in tournament to play.
Yeah, I got to get a deck list in soon. I'm trying to figure out. It's weird. I haven't actually played any Vintage in a while. So this weekend is going to be kind of my Vintage tune-up, just playing a lot of Vintage on Magic Online, getting ready. Because I really want to make it back to the VSL. It's pretty prestigious and a lot of fun. It's just nice to be on the other side, not this side, but to actually be playing matches. So hopefully I can make it in, but I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are going to be rooting for you. So we'll see you next week, and stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back with Paul Rietzl.